Yeah, last year I was a participant in a Young Composers meeting, and I ended up being one of the winners. So I won the opdracht for the ereprijs, and the piece last year was called Soccer McGee, and it was about comic books, in a way. So my prize was of course some money, but more importantly I think was I get to write a piece for the ereprijs. So this piece, Hussy, is that piece from last year. So I wrote it at the beginning of late October, no, November 5th actually, to maybe the end of December.
Okay, so it takes about 2 months to write it all.
Well, I worked really hard on this piece. It's not so long, it's maybe only about 6.5 minutes, but I've never worked harder for a 6.5 minute piece. And what I wanted to do is take this, well, it's a movie, but it's also a musical comedy. It's from 1957 by Meredith Willson. It's called The Music Man. The most famous piece from that musical is probably 76 Trombones. Everybody knows that. I had seen the video when I was a kid, and I even conducted it in high school.
Mm-hmm.
High school did it, so I knew the whole thing quite well. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna make a transcription of this piece for the ereprijs.
Mm-hmm.
So transcription, maybe it's a loaded word, it can mean anything. So I took it and I made my own version. I really studied it and thought, what's he doing here? What's he doing there? And I made my own version of it for them.
Yeah. All right. So what's your way of working? Do you use a pencil and paper, or are you working in a...
Yeah, very old-fashioned.
Really?
I work with pencil and paper, but I put it on the computer later. I think most everybody does that. Some people can write directly onto the computer. I can't do that. It's a little difficult.
You need a touch of the paper and
I need to, yeah. And I think a benefit of paper is that it's slower. It's slower to put things on. It actually takes time to write a note and put, and so there's more time for thinking.
Yeah. It forces you to think before you...
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah. Some people would argue with me, but I think that. So.
And you're behind the piano, or?
Well, for this piece, it's hard because it's almost tonal piece. So I really wanted to be sure of every harmony and stuff like that before I put it down. So I really worked with the piano with this piece. I worked from the score too, because there's a score of the original. So I worked from the score and also behind the piano to get most of it. But I really spent a long time analyzing the piece, the original. And I found some really interesting things, I think, and that really fired my imagination. At the beginning, I thought, how am I going to take this and make this into a 6-7 minute piece?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I think I found some solutions. So it really inspired me, I think, because I think if you just sort of keep something and keep looking at it, you'll find different ways to do things with it.
Could you give an example of what made you decide on how to do it? Specific parts?
A specific part? Well, I think it's more important that you have to kind of get to the root of what is there. What's he doing? And I mean, for this piece, there are various aspects because it's not just a piece of musical theater. There's also a movie that exists, and this particular piece is a song and dance number. So there are characters dancing, they're singing, whatever. I sort of used both the movie and the score versions to sort of inspire me. So sometimes the choreography would even inspire me. So. In the original, for instance, there's a trombone gliss from E to B flat, and it's just short. That's all it is. It's sort of like an ornamentation. And in the choreography, what's happening is that two characters are trying to sort of lift each other up, but they can't quite do it because the female singer, she's just too big. So I thought, okay, so I took that and I made most of the last part of the piece with that. It's a huge kind of a. So I took it and I figured out what it was, or tried to get at what it was, and I exaggerated it. So that's something that I wanted to convey too with the piece, was to, in these pieces from the 50s and 60s for musical theater, there's so much exaggeration. It's almost like it's over the top, completely over the top with the costume or with the music, everything. It's just excess. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do that in the piece. So sometimes, mostly, I took things that were there and I really, take them and put them in a photocopier and make them twice the size. So twice as long or twice as long, something like that.
It's kind of cartoonesque sort of way of working.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. But the whole way of working was very personal and thinking, because, I know this now for 10 years or something like that, 10, 15 years. So it's almost like I know every little bit of it because I watched it so much when I was a kid. It's like in me. So looking at this was really like looking at myself. Actually, it sounds really silly, but I can't deny that this thing's a part of me in a way. So
Like anything you compose has to be part of you before you can do it, probably.
perhaps, yeah. But with this piece especially, I really took the time to look at things. I've been when I came to Amsterdam, I noticed that there are a lot of people from different countries studying at school, and they're always looking at how their own heritages affect what they do. And it's funny because being from Canada, this is not really a question that people are asking. I mean, okay, they're asking what am I doing, but then we don't have such a big heritage. I mean, you could argue with that, but I really think we don't have such a big heritage. So you have to kind of look at yourself and your own history to think what am I going to do. So I've been looking at that for a few years, just thinking what are some things that I grew up with in my childhood? Who am I? How can I? What do I like? And not being afraid to do what you want to do. So, I mean, some people wouldn't really write this piece, 'cause it's whatever. I don't mind, you know.
And did you, as a kid, as a child, already aspire to become a composer one day, or was that something that came up later?
No, it was very early. I remember I wanted piano lessons when I was quite young, and my parents said, no, later. So I had to wait a few years, but then I got them, and I started writing immediately after. I don't know why, but I just wanted to. And I'm from a pretty rural area. There's not, the biggest city is about 2 hours away by car. So there are lots of piano teachers, but there are no composition teachers. So what I had to do when I was a kid was just sort of study on my own, I think. Do things on my own. So I have lots of pieces from when I was that old. I don't think anybody could play them because they're not written in the right way. Like they're not, the notes don't exist on the instruments, but I slowly managed to learn what to do. And I think I actually had more opportunities being from a small place than a big place.
Why is that?
Well, I think if I were from a large city center, I wouldn't have been able to take a piece that I wrote, say, in high school to an orchestra and say, could you put this on the next concert season? And they'd say, okay. So I got lots of performances when I was a kid. Yeah, lots of performances. Just because I had, chutzpah enough to go there and say, do this. And so that gave me some pretty nice experience, I think. But I couldn't have done that, I think, if I were from a bigger center. So I think it's sort of a nice thing that I was from a small town. I couldn't really receive training in composition until later, because I was really allowed to do what I wanted to do. And now I'm here and I'm thinking about that. Yeah. So I'm trying to balance everything out.
Yeah. Last year, you already mentioned, last year you were one of the winners of the Young Composers meeting. Is that something, a week like this, is that something which really helps developing as a composer, helps you as a composer? Yeah,
well, it helped me. It teaches you good things and teaches you bad things. So okay. I had a great time through the week, but I really didn't think it was a competition. I don't think it is now, but some people did, I think, last year. And so some people were very, I'm here to win, and then I didn't really like that. But that taught me also an important aspect about how people are and how the business is sometimes. But working with this ensemble on a more technical level, yeah, it was really great. You can really hear what's happening, and more importantly, you can see what other people are doing. So you can hear how they rehearse, you can watch them, you can listen to their music. It's more than just about the pieces. It's always about the rehearsal process and meeting them after and talking to them. It's really about, I'm sorry this sounds really cheesy, but it's really about people this week, which boils down to how connected music is to us, to people.
Yeah, but maybe it's just like at school. I mean, you learn a lot from your teachers, and a good teacher is worth gold. Mm-hmm. But you learn a lot from your fellow
exactly.
Right?
Every time, I think that's actually more important than teachers. Learning what you can from your peers, watching them, talking to them, seeing how they react to situations. So, yeah, I can tell already. I went upstairs. I can tell some people really don't like my piece. I can really tell already, and then some people do. So that's already a reaction, and that's already. I can imagine what they enjoy. And I'm not judging. It's just I can imagine what they enjoy, and I see what I enjoy, and it's going from there. So that's really why a week like this is really important. Yeah. It's the music is always there, but it's more about social interaction, I think, and really thinking about how others do things that you do. Yeah. Modeling, I suppose.
Modeling?
Just putting your thumb up and saying, I do it this way, this person does it that way. Am I happy with the way I do it? Should I, stuff like that. I mean, ultimately, it comes back to you. It's about how you do things. But so it's a great opportunity to really, participate, an interactive opportunity. Really, really it is. You wouldn't learn so much if you went to the rehearsal of your piece alone and then left, and then you really wouldn't be as rich as if you stayed for all and watched everything. So, and I'm happy this year because I get to watch. Well, I get to watch that. I don't participate. I mean, I don't have a piece played in the week. It's not rehearsed, but I get to watch everybody. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Yeah. So you're going to stay this week?
Yeah, I'm going to stay here all week and maybe give advice to people or just talk to people. Because what I just said, I'm also doing that now, even though I'm in a different position. So.
Sure. Is there, maybe just one more question, is there an example in the history of music, say a composer or a figure or a historic figure or maybe someone you know as a person who you would say, that's the kind of composer I would like to become, as an example?
Well, I really have great respect for people that just do what they want to do. So I guess I was always doing that as a kid because I had no teacher. So of course you're going to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's only when you really kind of have an education that things sort of become tricky. So the last few years I spent in California, I really became somebody that I realized I didn't really want to be. So I came to Amsterdam to study with my teacher now, Richard, and maybe this is cliche to say this, but I really believe that he's the type of person that I would like to aim for. So he's doing what he wants to do, and you can see he's happy doing it, and he writes, an enormously high quality of music, and he's writing a lot, and he's always inspired. He always wants to do it, and that's because he's doing what he wants to do. So that was very helpful for me because I realized actually that I shouldn't be afraid of if I want to write something that isn't so accepted nowadays by the universal music community. So there's a thing that's sort of new music, and there are things that you can't do, and there are things that you can't do, in a very cliche sense. And he just simply doesn't care about that. And I think life's too short actually to care about these things. You should ask questions and you should be critical and think, well, why am I doing this? And why is this music like this? But at the same time, you have to balance that with what you're doing. So I really think for a long time, I think he'll be my model. And people that are like that just do what they do and they're thinking about it. They're not just doing whatever.
Being themselves, being who
they're being themselves, but they're also thinking critically about what they're doing and where they fit in and how this is very important. And it all boils down to honesty, I think. I've been to enough concerts now this year, I really feel I can tell when somebody doesn't like writing music, a composer, but I'm wrong sometimes, so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.